Oh, overnight pay, yeah. So it's 85 versus 80. Everything else stays the same, and the ones for the ambulance stays the same. Key Avenue Recreation Trail, got a problem with slope that keeps on washing away, so we're gonna fix that. And then inter-fund transfer resolution. If anybody wants a copy to figure out what this does, you can just take mine. But basically, it's trying to get everything accordance in the right fund, because government is fund accounting, and that's not F-U-N, that's F-U-N-D. So, any items that anybody wants to talk about, 1 through 11?
I'd like to pull number 5 and vote on it separately, please.
Okay.
I've got just a clarification on D8, which is the reappointment for the Lamar's Historic Preservation Commission.
Yep.
Mike Wells Jr. actually technically is not junior. It's just used for differentiating between Mike Wells, senior, so to speak, and younger Mike Wells. It's just a clarification.
Okay.
Neither one of them go by senior or junior for legal names.
Okay. Any other items on the other 10 items? Anybody want to make a motion on the 10?
I make a motion to approve consent items 1 through 11 minus 5.
Yep. We have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve items 1 through 4 and 6 through 11. Resolution? Yeah, resolution's in there somewhere.
2 resolutions.
So, roll call. Beth?
Donlin?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Knapp?
Yes.
Wick?
Yes.
Goodchild?
Yes.
And now we want number 5, granting cigarette permits. I'll make a motion to approve cigarette permits.
Second.
We got a second. Any other discussion? Okay, we need another vote on that.
Donlin?
Yes.
Wick?
Yes.
Nelson?
No.
Knapp?
Yes.
Goodchild?
Yes.
Okay, so we're through the 11.
So you know you had to prove my 1 to 4 vote wrong today, right?
It just,
But you know, your stop signs usually it's 2 to 3.
no,
Late.
sometimes the people even questioning the 2 to 3 votes. Because we holler louder. Okay, we're gonna move on to PlyWood Trail Development Agreement. This seems to reappear every 3 or 4 months. Attached to the agreement between the City of Lamar's and the PlyWood Trail Foundation providing to the development, construction, and ongoing maintenance and repair of PlyWood Trail Phase 1. The city has a similar agreement with Maryland Hinton. I'll just say it's the overview is to acquire easements, permits, design and construction, applying for grant funding, maintain and repair, insure, and the foundation is the one that's supposed to do the fundraising for development and construction and establish an endowment fund exclusively for repairs and maintenance. Jason, you want to explain?
Yes, I don't know if there's anybody else on the phone. Actually, this...
Jason, Leslie's on the phone.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. This has kind of been in the works or on the radar for almost 3 years. You know, initially when we came, there was a request for a development agreement, request for a letter of intent, and then an engineering agreement. And all of them were supposed to come back at some point. So this one, 3 years later, is coming back. But I hope you've read through it. It is word for word the same as what will go before the Sioux City Council next week. So this is for Section 1, which is the south limits of Lamar's to the north limits of Merrill. And then it spells out who does what. I did that overview there, which explains Lamar's will be taking the lead in the construction of that section. Okay, so our next agenda item is what we've been doing for 3 cycles already, is we will be the name on getting the permission from the DOT to put it in there right away. We will be the lead when it comes to applying for grants. We will be the lead when it comes to bidding it, constructing it, and then once it's completed, we will be the entity that is responsible for the maintenance of it. Simply that stretch from Mars to Merrill.
Question for Leslie, if the grant does not get okayed, will this go forward or will we be back on square one again?
I can answer that too. I can answer that too.
Sorry, just having a hard time hearing.
It basically has to do with funding. When will it start? It won't start until the funding is in place. I mean, this will be that state trails grant that is before you. I believe this is the 3rd time we've applied for that one, if not 3, maybe 2. But we have not. That goes on a scoring system, and this project has not received any funding from that source yet. The hope is someday they will send a little money this way for it, but I don't believe, no section of the PlyWood Trail will start until there is funding for it. Is that correct, Leslie?
That is correct, Jason. We did have to pause fundraising due to COVID, as probably many things stopped due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We intend to hit the ground running again here in July. We have collected over $4 million for the trail, and that's over a period of time. I don't want you to think that that's all in hand today. So over a period of time, we continue to look for funding for the trail, and if we have to go the private route just for phase 1, that's what we intend to do. COVID did put a little bump, a little dent in our fundraising efforts. So we anticipate it's going to take well over a year to actually get all of those funds in place privately if we can't get some public funds to help supplement some of that. So we continue to meet monthly as a trail board and committee, working with McClure Engineering to finalize the details for Connection 1. They will be finalized by mid-July, so that we would be ready to go once that funding is in place.
And then I'll just touch on some, because I have some orange stickies here, that I'll just highlight some of these areas. On the first page, required specifications number 2, that outlines, no city funds shall be required for the maintenance of it. Then on page 2, 5E refers to that again. That gets into the whole foundation of that endowment fund being set up for the maintenance of the trail over time. Page 3, 6B talks about the endowment. 7, number 7 refers to insurance. The trail in this section will be under the city of Lamar's liability, our coverage, just the same as the trail that's in our city limits is. One thing I think everybody needs to be aware of underneath on page 4 in termination in that section, I think we all need to be comfortable with, and I am, I mean you guys can have your opinions too, of at some point the PlyWood Trail Executive Committee may no longer exist, because the goal is to get the trail built. So once it's built, there really is no need for them, so they could dissolve. Then in that case, it's spelled out in here that each section would be turned over to each community along the way then. So in this case, from Lamar's to Merrill, we have to be comfortable that someday we will own that thing. We will own that trail. So that's what page 4 in the termination section outlines, and then page 5, the 28E, those specifications, outlines what that management board will look like. So we'll have representation, each community will have representation on that board. So those are some highlights.
So by owning that, then, how does that change our commitment?
I'm assuming the endowment fund, could go on for, yeah. I think it's somewhere in here, the word own is in here. So technically I think we will be owning it. It's not their intent, it's not the PlyWood board's intent to own the trail ever. Their intent is to get it built.
Will that stay under our insurance then forever? Or is that part of the endowment cost and insurance for their trail system?
It doesn't specify whether that endowment covers
Insurance costs.
Insurance costs.
Because originally during construction, you said it would be our insurance and our liability and all that.
I think afterwards it will be ours.
It will stay under our insurance from where it currently is to the north edge of Merrill.
Okay.
And I don't want to quote our insurance agent, but my understanding is that that gets added to our existing trail base and there's no real increased cost.
Okay, a couple of questions, because I know these came up in the original discussion, was ownership and maintenance, okay? And I know I switched total directions when it comes to maintenance, because I kind of think it should be under Lamar's parks and recreational maintenance, part of their I think, this section. Because if we're calling it a lineal park, then it's our park. But can you tell me where the north edge of Merrill is? Because I know there was also a phase 1, and then there was 2 options. One was to go kind of west, and one was to go to the case. It never really was defined where the north edge of Merrill is. So this is going to where?
So I don't have that drawing, that plan, but it's in between as you cross the river, so whatever direction that is.
Yes.
So in between the river and that first acreage on that curve there that sits back.
The
south
Walcott
side.
acreage, okay,
Yeah,
so
it's somewhere in between there.
so that is the north edge.
Yeah.
So phase 1 covers getting across that river somehow?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it does.
Okay. And then Jason, your opening comment, and this is my last one, you said, this agreement is word for word what will go in front of the Sioux City Council. Okay, why are they even in on it if this is phase 1 in our section of the trail?
Maybe not word for word. But what is going before them, Clark, is from the north end of Sioux City to the south edge of him.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, because you confused me there. I thought, okay.
Yeah.
You confused me.
So they will have the southern section.
Okay, gotcha.
Well, it's the hope that they will have the southern section.
Right, okay.
Jason, this is Mike. I have a question.
Okay?
Well, looking at paragraph 5E, if it goes on to page 3, it briefly mentions winter months, and that there'll be no snow removal. So has it been worked out that along the entire trail, there won't be any snowmobiles or cross-country skiing, it's closed, or will that activity be okay? It's just going to have to be, have fun with whatever's on the trail, or what is the plan for the winter?
Oh, well, that wasn't added here. There's no intent there was no intent from the city, and no intent from the PlyWood Trail, and Leslie can speak to that, is that there's no need to clean it in the wintertime on a regular basis. Now, if we have time, I mean, we clean our trail in Lamar's. Maybe not on a consistent basis, but we at least get out there and try to plow the snow. But it's not a requirement that we do this section in the wintertime. I mean, if somebody wants to cross-country ski on it, I'm assuming they probably can. Snowmobiles, I don't think the DOT will allow snowmobiles in there right away, but, yeah. There's,
So it will remain open, just not maintained like it is at other times.
yeah, I mean, that doesn't mean, Mike, that we wouldn't, I mean, if we had time, we may go down and plow the snow off of it, but.
The purpose of that phrase in the agreement, Mike, is simply to limit the city's responsibility with maintenance as the agreement with the PlyWood Trail is. It just limits your responsibility, that's all.
Yeah, sure, I get that. It just triggered the question about winter use in a broader sense. And so that's just what brought up my question. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, so it'd be, if we desire to clean it, we can, but there's not gonna be a requirement to do so.
Yeah, just to reiterate, we don't have any expectation that any of the communities would plow the trail in the winter. I know the city of Sioux City does do that with all of their trails, and so they intend to do that, but there's no expectation that we have for that.
That's where I'd like to see the city of Lamar's, is if we do our in-town trails. We have a large biking community, and you get a nice February day or a nice December day, and, I think it's a good idea, but we're not under obligation to do it, and that's what you're saying. So I think that's good.
Motion to authorize the city administration and city attorney to finalize the agreement between the city of Lamar's, PlyWood Trail Foundation for the development, construction, and ongoing maintenance and repairs for the PlyWood Trail Phase 1.
We have a second? I'll second it. Yeah, good. Mike? Okay.
Sure.
Anybody else got questions? Motion authorizes the city administrator and city attorney to finalize the agreement between the city of Lamar's and PlyWood Trail Foundation, development, construction, ongoing maintenance, phase 1. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
That was an aye.
That was in favor.
That was not 4-1. That was like that's called a stipe. All right. Thank you, and thank you, Leslie, for all your work. And you can come in now. You can come see us every once in a while. Okay.
I would be happy to come to you.
Okay.
Especially if you have good news.
I will come with good news next time.
Oh,
I will be working on that one.
Okay. Promise. Okay, we're going to move on to the State Recreational Trails Program funding. As we alluded to the last 20 minutes, we've done this a couple times. We're trying to apply for state money again. The application is due July 1st, 2020 to IDOT and award sometime in the fall. 25% minimum local agency match is required for the funding. And the financial impact is that 25% would be reimbursed to the city by the Lamar's Area Betterment Foundation or the PlyWood Trail Foundation. So we're trying to submit the application.
Question for Jason. Does the scoring go up as the projects that they approved last year go off the list, or what can we do to improve our chances?
Leslie, I don't know. Did we better ourselves in scoring last time?
We did. We do keep moving up ever so slowly and incrementally. We're discovering that these trail funds used to So the ones that they funded recently were third, fourth, different phases of trails. So we're hoping that they will take a look at this. We've got some feedback and done a few things differently for the application process. So we keep trying, and we will continue to keep trying.
Seems to me, thinking back on Betterment Foundation meetings, that getting that final design is going to be key to moving up the ladder. And it turns out we didn't get the final design done in time, if I'm reading this right. Is that?
We're gonna, sorry, Mike, I apologize.
No, go ahead, Leslie, you're answering my question.
Yes, so we are submitting what we have up to this point. It's still just still end up being DOT reviewing it to make sure that that it's okay. But they're submitting, McClure submitting their finalized plan. We have to have a foundation meeting to agree with that, but we pretty much have it all ready to go. It's just getting our foundation to agree and them and the DOT. What we're submitting is not going to change anything at this point in time.
Okay, that's helpful, thank you.
Leslie, as long as you're on the phone, I'm just curious, something that was said earlier, this is Clark. Aren't there future plans to go north also? Or wasn't that in the works at some point in time? And wouldn't this PlyWood?
Sorry, Carl, I just couldn't hear you quick.
Weren't there some plans to go north also?
Oh, up to county?
I don't know where to, but I know that originally we were, Scott was working, it came up in discussion, that's all I know, open discussion, that there were some plans to go north up on 60.
I think you're right, Clark. I think there's definitely interest. We're not ready to tackle that at this point in time. I know